Wildists, I am back live at Colibri Spirit Festival and super excited to have dear friend Stephen Brooks with me. He is a regenerative farmer, community builder, and ethnobotanist. Stephen, it is an honor to be in your presence.
It's great to be here.
Discuss things very close to Wilding Tribe,
amazing.
My platform and my heart, which really is a life lived in nutrient density. That's what makes me tick.
I like it.
Makes us all tick. But let's start with, what is an ethnobotanist?
So ethnobotany comes from two words: ethno, which is people, like ethnicity, and botany, which is plants. And the "any" is like the study of. So it's the study of the relationship between human beings and plants. And that relationship's so deep and so profound, and it's just like goes back millennium. And we kind of forget it, in Western society. It's just like plants, maybe we like flowers, or we could even be a foodie, but we've lost that deep relationship with the plants. And, you think about indigenous wisdom, and you think about, indigenous culture, and they literally, take something, for instance, like ayahuasca. It's a mix of two plants, the Banisteriopsis caapi vine and the Chacruna shrub. Both are like just nothing special about them. Like if you saw them, nothing would call you about either of them. Yet indigenous people in Peru and in Brazil and in, Colombia, they all figured out that if you take the bark of that vine and the leaves of that shrub and boil it for many hours together and then drink that brew, you'll get blasted to goddess, and it's like, how did those indigenous people figure that out? It's like the plants clearly spoke to them. There's like deep relationship happening, and it's from food to medicine to, even just things to, just the things that we figured out as humanity of how to interact with plants is so deep, and it's nothing to take lightly. So as an ethnobotanist, like all I see literally when I'm traveling around is I just see the plants.
Wow.
And I love to observe the people from those places, how they work with the plants. Like for example, here, being in Corfu, going around the island and seeing the relationship with the olive, and seeing these ancient olive trees that literally were around when Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel. These olive trees were growing. And the fact that the olive oil that we use here in Corfu is coming from trees that are 500 years old. It's like deep.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, that's what an ethnobotanist is. And I'm just like, and usually like I do a lot of things, but when people put a little title under my name, which in case you do that here, I'm first and foremost an ethnobotanist.
Okay, I love that. And as you're speaking, I just get such like that sense of this ancient alchemy, which is really taking elements into a melting pot and creating the magic, and really have this sense of how important that is as people. The only way that we can heal and we can learn is by alchemizing together and forming a tribe. And it's the same for the plant.
Yes.
Same to make the magic of the ayahuasca. And so I wonder how your career, your journey, and the businesses and the landscapes that you've built, how have you implemented alchemy to help people live better?
Yeah, so I would say what I'm spending most of my time on right now is creating these communities, which like the communities are just an excuse to plant the trees,
Wow.
So it's like,
it's like a love note to them.
Yeah, well, it's like we're merging, like the whole vision of what we're doing is how can we merge where we live with the plants we use?
Yeah.
So it's not like, how things are normally done is like people live all clustered up here in like a city, and then the farming and the happens somewhere else. Like, why can't we merge that agriculture right into our very communities? Rather than having like a golf course or like, like some weird, sports center in the center of our community, we have gardens, and we have kilometers of roads. All of those roads are planted with hundreds of species of fruit and nut and flowering trees, and it's like, literally we live in a botanical garden. An ethnobotanical garden.
And that is a formula that you're creating to build into these communities.
So I've been in Costa Rica for 30 years. In 2005, we started the first, I've been there since 95. We started an education center called Punta Mona. And then in 2005, we started the first community, which was called La Ecovilla. And that was 45 families. Then my 2007 Burning Man camp bought the property up the street, which became Taco Tal. That was like another 25 families. And then in 2018, we bought another 170 acres, which became Alegria Village, which was another 145 families. So right now we're like 225 families from 40 countries living in a valley. That's an ethnobotanical garden.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have a big tribe. Like that is literally the art of creating a tribe.
It's incredible. And you know, what was so important is like, I don't want to be the center of it. I didn't want to be the guru, or I don't want to be the guy. Like, I just like to instigate it happening. And then now I'm kind of like on to do it again. You know, it's like, I don't want to be a necessary piece of the equation. You know, it's like, I want to put the plants, I want to make the dream and the vision and attract the people that are attracted to that vision. Because it's interesting, you know, where we did it wasn't in like a very touristy place. It wasn't in a place that like where hipsters were flocking. It was a place in the middle of nowhere in a valley that like was like abandoned cattle pasture. And
what did people come for?
Oh, they came for the clean water, the good food, and the school. We have a school with over 100 kids in it that the parents co-created. And I think something that's really important that we're doing is like, before anyone, like some advice I would give to anybody that wants to do a project like this or wants to do anything, is get really clear on your criteria. What is it that you're looking for? Because the clearer you get on your criteria, the better chance you'll have in finding it. Like for us, we had a clear criteria. First, we wanted to be in Costa Rica. Second, we wanted to be within 1 hour of San Jose. So imagine you have the whole world.
Yeah.
Then you say Costa Rica and it's this tiny little place. And then I say within 1 hour of San Jose and it's even tinier. And then I said, I want to be between 300 and 800 meters above sea level. So now all of a sudden it's just getting tighter. And then I said, I want to be on a crystal clear river that I can lay naked on big hot boulders. And when it gets so hot and crispy, I can roll in the water and drink it.
Wow.
You know, so now I'm just getting so honed
clear on the Eden.
Yeah, so just so honed in on my criteria. So it's like, if you're looking for a husband or if you're looking for a job, it's like, get really clear on what it is you're seeking so that you'll have a better chance of finding it.
I think a lot of us really struggle with knowing what we want. We know we want something else, and people have a hard time really getting to the root of what is it that you authentically want. Like, what is it that you're coming from here with, rather than here, or what the world is projecting that you want. And so that work, that exercise has to be done before you're clear on what you really want.
Well, I feel like society has like really driven us to think that it needs to be a certain way. Like, you need to work your whole life and then you can retire and hopefully find some bliss. But no, like we can do things so differently. You know, it's like we've just like traded our lives for this like unquenchable quest for things and money and success. And when really like what I think people are really striving for is peace and health and harmony
and connection presence.
Totally. And if we could do that, you know, we just have to surround ourselves with people that are also wanting to do that and get clear on what you like, you know, where do you want to be, who do you want to be with, what do you want it to be like, you know, start getting clear on those things so you can actually do it.
What are the pillars that you think make a community? Because there are some sort of instrumental pillars of structure that a community and a tribe need to operate around. What have you noticed? What do you see that's different or really important from the way the chaos of the world is working out there?
Yeah, I would say like permaculture is like a deep just philosophy, ecological design philosophy of permaculture. I think just like having clear values, like dedication to children, you know, and dedicated to like radically questioning everything, radically questioning where our food is coming from, radically questioning where the water we drink is coming from, radically questioning where it's going when it goes down our drain, you know, radically questioning education, radically questioning medical systems, radically questioning agricultural systems, and knowing that if you're going to try to change any of it on your own, it's like so incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But when all of a sudden you're surrounded by 100 other families that want that also, you know, it's like we have a health food store in our town now. Like literally, we started a town, you know, and it has a health food store. Why? Because the people want it, you know. We have the most epic school. Why? Because the parents co-created it, you know. It was like, no, we're not going to endure a broken system where shit's not working and people are sad and struggling, you know. We co-creating something radically different, you know. And again, like trying to do any of this on your own is just like impossible.
Hard. And for those of the listeners that don't live in your Eden in Costa Rica, how do you see that this can be integrated into life?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like baby steps, you know, it's like, it doesn't be like from, oh, listen to the Rewild podcast and then go move to your dream community, and it could, you know, it's like, you know, I've seen things like with Envision. I'm one of the co-founders of Envision Festival, and like I've seen, and I'm sure it's happening here right now.
Yeah.
People go to Envision, and then after their life is completely different, and they literally go back and they quit their job, they break up with their husband, and they move to Costa Rica, or they decide that they want to leave the city and live in like a rural place because like it wasn't working. You know, so you could be radical like that, or you could do something like cancel your Amazon Prime for 2 weeks and see how that feels. You know, I'm serious, you know, or start a garden. That's revolutionary. Starting your own garden is revolutionary.
Growing.
And if you don't have space, like do it somewhere, you know, rent a space at a place, or, you know, join a CSA, community supported agriculture, where you're part of a farm, or even just go volunteer once a month. You know, it's just like, get your hand in the earth, connect with the food, connect with like, or even just like, do, you know, forest bathing, like go in the forest and feel and listen. You know, I often say like all the answers in that you're seeking, the plants are screaming them at you. So if you just stop long enough to listen, and you'll hear them.
Beautiful. I love that. A lot of the time that I spend centering myself is exactly that. I really call it biome bathing. It's whether it's the ocean and appreciating the flow, the touch, the sense, every single element of that water, or whether it's in the forest. I live in the middle of nowhere on the south coast of England, and am ensconced in the beauty of nature. And I think that's an incredibly lucky position to be in. But we can find it wherever we are, and looking at the light first thing rather than like swallowing ourselves into a swipe. You know, these small habits that totally and utterly transform if you commit to them daily. I think that there is such a lack of consciousness in our life. And for me, conscious recalibration is something that I practice. And that's exactly what you're talking about, like cancel the Amazon, stop to stroke the cat, like really just get conscious in your daily movement. And food is the one thing that we all do every day. And I think we have this relationship with it where we're like, by the time it comes to your doorstep, you're just intake. There's no thought for what was before and no need for the thought, but actually like we are living from that consciousness. So are you feeding yourself a nutrient dense sovereign supply chain, or are you just actually absorbing and intaking junk unconsciously, and it just feeds this sense of disconnect that the world is grappling with? And so I'd love to just hear from you how number one, how plants, really even house plants, like the concept of the garden as we have it is so out there and like manicured and like unwild, and like I really need to touch the nature to get wild myself, and that's a food for my soul. So how can people integrate more of that? Connect with it.
So a few things that are coming up in my mind. One is that like 20 years ago, if you were into organic food, like you went to like mostly like a dirty, grungy health food store, you know?
Total hippie vibe.
And if you were into like gourmet food, it was like a very, like in the States, we had this place called Dean and DeLuca. That's the example. It's like this really fancy Harrods, probably in England, you know? This really fancy gourmet store. And they were very separate and very different. But now organic and gourmet are like meeting in this very interesting crossroads where the same organic people and the gourmet is very like in a similar place. Another thing is that I think we're at a time right now that is so exciting because I'm in all of these really, really nerdy Facebook groups that are like people around the world that have been collecting plants for a very long time.
Wow.
Collecting some of the most exciting plants that have never, talking about wild, that have never been domesticated. People from Cameroon, people from Brazil, people from Sri Lanka that are literally like, for the first time ever, domesticating wild foods that they, and sharing them and spreading them.
Wow. So
people around the world are communicating about these foods and sharing them and spreading them. So I think that's and it's interesting because I'm like at the cutting edge. I'm in like a deep rabbit hole of nerds.
Yeah. And, you know, and what's going to be the solution, the outcomes from that?
I think the solution that's going to come out of it is that like some of these, you know, I think this whole kind of syntropic, like really diverse food forestry is the next evolution.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the foods that we eat at one time, they grew wild and they didn't need anything. So how can we recreate that in permaculture? We often talk about mimicking. How can we create our gardens to mimic nature? You know, will they be as productive if we did, you know, large scale annual plantings of the same crop at scale? No. But that's okay, because productive, what does that mean? Like, to do that other thing, you're going to need all these outside inputs. You're going to need tractors, and you're going to need, you know, compost brought in from outside, and you're going to need, or chemicals, or you're going to, you know, you're going to need machines running on diesel. You know, so it's like, by creating, you know, my neighbor in Costa Rica, my old Caribbean neighbor, may he rest in peace. He used to say, boy, if you plan things right, all you do is reap. If you plan things right, all you do is reap, you know? And it's like, and the way, like, people might be wondering that are listening, about what is permaculture. I mentioned it, but permaculture, it comes from two words: permanent culture. It's really about meeting our goals and using less energy. And if I was to say to you, you know, Fee, like, do we all have the same goals? Like, you'd be like, I'd be like, pretty much we do. We want to play more than we work. We want to live somewhere beautiful. We want to be surrounded by love. We want to eat great. Like, pretty much anyone you speak to, no matter if you're a, you know, a rice farmer from India, or you're a maca farmer in Peru, like, that's kind of what people want, you know? And how do we get there and use less energy? One of the best ways to do that is to starting to shift your diet to a perennial diet. You know, it's like, there's been all these diet trends. I think you'll really appreciate this. There's been all these diet trends. Like, in the 70s, people were into, like, macrobiotics. You know, that was a macrobiotic diet. And then the 80s, like, people became vegetarian. And then the 90s, they went vegan. And then in 2000, they went raw. And then 2010, they went like paleo, you know? And then now, what is it? You know, now everybody's drinking bone broth, and the same vegan people, you know? And I think the trend that we need now is we need to shift to a perennial diet, which is not only healthier for us, but it's healthier for the planet. And you might be wondering, what do you mean by that? It's like, you have, and just for those that maybe don't understand, annuals and perennials. Annuals are things that you plant in the spring or in the beginning of the season. They grow, they flower, they fruit, and then they die all in one season. Where perennials are things that are coming from trees, like these olives or avocados or cashews, or, you know, all these things, coconuts, things that come from trees that just keep giving. So you don't have to keep back in tilling every year, keep adding inputs. You could create a system that supports itself. And so when we talk about using less energy, it's like, you know, and I always thought it was an American thing, like this kind of like corn, soy culture where we grow food for animals in scale. You know, it's everywhere. Like, I drove a couple years ago from Barcelona to Rome, and it was the same thing. I've driven through Africa. It's the same thing. Like, you know, in Brazil, it's the same thing. Vast fields of grain.
And the energy and the sort of aggressive processing. We are just
against nature.
And having to force it to grow.
Radically against nature.
And I just, as you're talking, I really just have this awareness of how important it is for us to recognize our own seasons. That's really what you're saying, is that we're just only considering the summer and the winter of the world. We're only ever chasing the summer, but like, the winter is a really important time, the hungry months. Like, it's like light and dark, like pain and love, like grief and beauty. We have to have them both. And I really love to seek discomfort, because I ensure that I'm feeling alive by doing so. And the same when we're growing, you know, we need to rest the earth. And that period we must be prepared for, and prepared to support her. So that we can then reap together. And like, how we have disconnected ourselves from that relationship, that we are biochemical, we are electromagnetic between the earth and the sun, like just one holistic relationship with the earth. And as you say, like what you're describing of what you built with these communities in this thrive state, it's there. It's a total mindset.
Yeah, I also think, you know, food has so much more energy, like, than the nutritional facts could ever say. Like the carbohydrates and the fats and the proteins. It's like, there's deep magic in there. It's like, if you were to take like a can of Campbell's soup and take the same, and grandma takes the same ingredients, it's like something radically different there. There's magic. And, you know, and same with not only how it's prepared, but how it's grown. You know, in Punta Mona, our farm in Costa Rica, we used to eat meals where 80% of the ingredients came from 100 meters from the kitchen, and nobody understood what was going on. Like, why do I feel so incredible? Basically there's people dancing while they're cooking your food. It radically affects
the energy,
the molecular, configuration of the food.
Yeah.
It makes you feel different.
And we don't have this concept. We don't understand that we are actually ingesting trauma, and the traumatic cells are then exploding into a trauma relationship biochemically, which is literally giving us anxiety.
And literally you could go to a Michelin restaurant, and if the chef's stressed out and sad and it's
or if the chicken is out of a battery farm.
Totally.
Like, I think that's what I'm talking
about. Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both. I think we want to be eating food that's cooked by happy people, and we want to eat food that's grown by happy people, and we want to eat food that's grown on earth that's happy. So I think it's like all of it. We want all of it, and I think we can have it. I think we can have it. I also think we want to eat. Our diet is so boring and limited. There's so many incredible, if I had to go to a deserted island, I can only bring one seed with me. It would be the peach palm.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of my favorite foods in the world. And you're probably thinking, what the hell is the peach palm? Right?
What's the peach palm?
So the peach palm has two of my favorite foods on earth from the same tree. Okay. So heart of palm, if you had heart of palm, that comes from the peach palm. Okay. But it also makes a fruit called pejivaye, which you boil, and it tastes like potato meets avocado, oily, greasy, delicious.
Wow.
Starch.
Wow. Yeah.
That comes from a tree. And you can also use the bark as for flooring and walls.
Okay.
Wow. And you could open it and prepare it with a stone axe. Remember, if you're on a deserted island, you don't have a chainsaw.
I have a Neolithic hand axe at home. I'll bring that.
Yeah, you'll be fine. So the reality is, it's like some of the most, and the reason why I give you that example is some of the best foods on earth are just unknown outside of their bioregion. For example, in El Salvador, there's a flower called loroco. Loroco is this little white flower, and it tastes kind of like umami, like mushroomy, just so delicious. And people outside of southern Guatemala and El Salvador have never even heard of it.
Wow.
Yet it's one of the best foods in the world, and it grows so easily.
Yeah. Because we're really just trading the most convenient food possible.
And that's really what we're doing. Shelf life. We're so focused on foods that have long shelf life.
Yeah, so packaged and wrapped and suffocated in plastic.
Totally.
So I want to ask you about the Church of Fruit.
Hallelujah!
Yes. Church of
So
Fruit.
I have very few rules in my life, and one of them is every time we say Church of Fruit, you have to scream,
Hallelujah!
Yeah, food is so sacred, and it's you have ceremony this and ceremony that. It's a fruit ceremony. It's connecting to creation, to God, basically, through these magical fruits. And
living
people
food.
just eat so fast, and you think about fast food, but together with 300 people eating a cherry at the same time, it's just it's this fruitgasm, collective fruitgasm.
Oh wow, I love that.
And it really, to really create the container for people to connect to spirit through their taste buds, and foods that are magical. So, I'm normally doing it in places with really exotic foods. Here, I don't really know. I'm going tomorrow to the town to see what I can get, but that's been my mission, is really to help people to connect to food and spirit through food.
And do you think that a lot of our issues are because we're so isolated and we have to come together to have the fruitgasm, that actually doing it on our own, or do you practice it on your own?
I just think we're so disconnected to sacredness, and ritual, and we're also very injured and wounded around, ritual, because we have weird relationships with our religions, and, so I think this is an opportunity to reconnect. It's we could decide that we're going to have a ceremony right now. It could be a podcast ceremony. It's we can decide anything we want.
Just by upholding something and celebrating and ceremonial, really becoming conscious to what we're about to do and what we're going to share.
Yeah, and collectively shifting to sacred. This moment right here with you right now, we could decide that it's sacred.
It is sacred.
We could sit here right now and be that. Or we could decide, here I am doing my job. Another podcast, and here I am giving another interview. I do it all the time, or it's no, I'm looking at you, but I'm feeling the people that you are connected to that are going to watch this, and how is it going to make them feel, and how is it going to inspire them to listen to their inner voices and bringing back sacred to whatever it is they're doing.
Do you feel for the plants?
Oh yeah, deeply, deeply.
How does it feel to feel that much for them and
It's
with
hard.
them?
It's really hard.
Yeah,
It's really hard.
it
It's
must
like,
be like heartbreak.
imagine going to a country and nobody speaks your language.
Yeah.
And you feel really alone. Like I feel very alone in the world. Like I feel.
Yeah.
And when I find people that speak plant, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh, no, really. Like I find somebody that really knows my field
Yeah.
of fruits and
Yeah.
foods, and it's just like we could talk for 10 hours, and it's like we're speaking another language.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you most excited about creating with all of this expanse of knowledge and
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
and pillars of vibrant living? What are you going to do with it next?
So we just launched another community in Costa Rica, north of the town of Nosara, which is like a really hip surf town, and we're just north of it in a town called San Juanillo. We just purchased 100 acres on the beach. We're trying to grow it to a lot bigger, and simultaneously we're creating a television show. I was on a show a few years ago with Zac Efron called Down to Earth, and I couldn't believe the impact it had and the amount outreach it got because of it. So we're starting a new show called The World Makeover.
Oh wow!
And we just got the first episode funded, and we're starting to work on it. And
wow!
And it's like I like.
Where can we see that? Where can we watch that?
We haven't. We're just we're just creating the first episode, and then Netflix or Amazon, or we're figuring that out. But then the next, Eterna. So Eterna is the name of the new community. Eterna, like eternal in Spanish. And what we're doing differently there than we have in the past is we're really incorporating hospitality and education. So I have a company called Ecoversity, where we, for 30 years I've been teaching permaculture at live in Punta Mona, but then we kind of shifted online with COVID, and it's been amazing. It's like sometimes we'll have 200 or 300 or 400 people in a course, and like literally thousands of acres around the world are being radically designed differently because these people are in our courses, and we teach permaculture and herbalism, and now we're creating this whole community hub. I find what people love about what we do the most is like we really create and foster community. People feel so alone. It's like when you're an earth lover and none of the people around you are earth lovers, it's scary.
It's hard.
So like, how do we find that tribe of people that radically want to help the earth? And I feel like Ecoversity is really doing that. And then at Eterna, we're creating an Ecoversity campus where we're going to be living, breathing these examples of another way to do things, where you can feel what it feels like to be surrounded by community, where you can live in a way. And then another thing that we're doing at Eterna that's really exciting is we're creating this whole artist residency and this idea called what's called the Modern Monastery, which it's a 28-day life reset program from the new moon to the new moon, where there's all the things. There's yoga and meditation and saunas and cold plunges and new moon ceremonies and full moon ceremonies and men's circles and women's circles, all the things that we know we need in our lives in this new way. But all of a sudden you're doing it with 50 families, and you can bring your kids, there's programming, and they're living separately in a bunkhouse.
Amazing.
So it's like,
and you have to come for 28 days.
In that program, it's a 28-day minimum.
But like, I think we're so dippy in and out.
Yeah.
And, I struggle. We struggle to live the commitment to the way of life.
Well, and you could still work
how you are.
Right, but the 28-day thing, you could still work for 6 or 8 hours a day. But you're living in a different bubble. Most people now work online, so you can do this anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's feeling like it feels like the world's ready for this kind of container.
Yeah. The word tribe, I really think, is something that has been that was old. That's from behind, but really, we need to take it and reinvent it into this future. It's so important.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to do things radically different, we're not going to be able to do it alone. So if you want to call those people that you're doing it with your tribe or your community or your
friends,
whatever you want to call it, it's like we need to really break the walls and start to collaborate on a different level so we could, really push through and find a new way, especially now more than ever, as things are just the turmoil and the madness out there is like crazier than ever.
Crazy.
Like, we need to come together and find a new way and co-create it together.
Can you give the listeners a tip on how, if they're struggling to have a relationship with nature, or struggling to have a relationship or a connection with plants, how can somebody foster and grow themselves in a very small, simple way with plants?
Yeah, I mean, I would say take a permaculture course. I think it's so profound. I mean, it's really, really profound. Or I would just like join a gardening club in your town, or like go, it's like find find someone near you where you live that's also doing that. And it's so much nicer to do this together. You know, it's like,
and you
you'll
start
find
to
it.
make friends that you didn't realize.
Whether it's at the yoga class or at the health food store,
And
you're going to
that's
find your
how
people.
you break out of the world that doesn't make you feel comfortable because it's not authentic. And you've been taught to sort of, oh, those are those people over there that do that kind of stuff. That's not me, because you've been conditioned to be in this box and this formula that is achieving the thing and going to the office and sitting straight on a chair all day and not looking at sunlight and just screen swiping. And so I just think by breaking out, you then start to take the time with smiling at the person giving you the coffee, or like building relationships outside of the bubble that you're living in that is actually broken when you've been told it's perfect. Yeah. And what about the infrastructure for what you're building? Like, how are you redesigning how to implement water, like all of that?
Yeah, these are raw pieces of land, you know, so we're doing all of those things with a permaculture lens. You know, it's like, how can we do this and do this, you know, in ways that will support the local community, in ways that will support the ecosystem. It's like we're designing beyond our borders, and we're designing beyond our lifetime. Yeah.
And I love when I first met you and said, hey, I'm Fee, you literally just started singing at me. And then last night, strumming away, I mean, my God, you are talented with a guitar.
Thank you.
How important is that to you? Music and a community and a tribe, like it's so important.
You know, some days I want to stop everything else and just do that.
You should. You are that good. I mean, I didn't want to
But there's a million people that are good. Like, I feel like the thing that I'm doing, there's not a lot of people doing. Like,
can I tell you though, like what was beautiful about last night is it wasn't just you, it was your art reflected by Truth next to you, reflected by Emily over there, and then like, you know, everybody was
co-creation.
And that's exactly it. That's why we need each other. It's like the reflection and the amplification of your gift is igniting everybody else's gift, and then we can see ourselves and share together. And that's like why you should keep doing it.
I'll keep doing it. I just can't stop the other things.
Well, they're like hobbies, habits, and you're growing something beautiful and sharing your intimate relationship with nature with others in a way that helps them live and co-create a better life. It's super important.
It's happening. It's happening.
I can't wait for your talk here at Colibri. So we have been recording this at Colibri Spirit Festival. I've been honored to be joined by Stephen Brooks here, my new friend, who's told me about a song all about Fee, Freedom Fee, which is perfectly matched with Wild Conversations. And really has been a joy to discuss with you. And Wildists, you can get this episode and every other episode on any podcast platform and find Stephen Brooks' Church of Fruit.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Thanks so
and
much
his projects online. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for joining me on Wild Conversations. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to hit subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more insights, stories, and journeys of transformation. Remember, this isn't just a podcast. It's a philosophy and a movement, a way of life. Together, we are paving the way to reconnect through the wild across all elements of life, from food to flow and community, in order to unlock our true human health and potential. Visit wildingtribe.com to learn more about our science-based programs and plans. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep pushing forward with intention. Remember to slow down, to feel into your inner wild, and to make space to listen to your authentic self. Until next time, you can always find more on Wilding Tribe.